A couple of months ago, we talked about Critique Women Talking,
Mm-hmm.
and that is a musical scored by Hildur. You're going to do the...
Udna Dottir. I don't know that I'm saying it right.
And yeah, she's a really accomplished, award-winning film scorer.
Yeah.
And here she did the film scoring for this one, which surprisingly she didn't get nominated for. I understand not for Women Talking, but for something that is centered around music score.
You'd think coming off the Joker win, which is a fabulous score,
Yeah, sure.
one of my favorite scores, and then coming off of that and then going into a movie that's literally about music,
Yeah.
in which Lydia Tarr gets all the credit for it,
Right.
you'd think she'd have gotten a
Not
nom.
nominated. It was peculiar. All right, so we're going to talk about one of my favorite films, top 10 films of the year, Tar.
Welcome back to the show. I'm one of your hosts, Kyle Goethe from GoatFilmReviews.com.
Hi, everybody. I'm Nick from the St. Paul Filmcast. Thanks for finding us. Thanks for watching. And for our loyal fans, thank you for continuing to support the show. You can follow the show on Twitter and on Instagram. We do have a Patreon. Check that out for some great deals and for some new upcoming content. And you get to tell us what movies we should review in the future.
Yeah.
Both Kyle and I are film critics of the Minnesota Film Critics Alliance. We're members of that. Check out that webpage for critics reviews as well as ours. And we're going to get our submissions in, too, for the film critics.
That should be dropping, actually, the days following this episode dropping. So look for that very soon. That link's down in the description.
Right, yeah. And today we're talking about another one that's nominated for Best Picture. It is Tar.
Yeah. Lydia Tarr is a renowned conductor and composer prepping for her next great achievement, a live recording of Mahler's Fifth Symphony. As the recording date approaches, a number of external forces erode Lydia's perfect facade and reveal the secrets and lies she used to gain her power, threatening to knock her off the podium.
Okay, as we're recording, we haven't done the Oscars yet, but the nominations already been out. So it's been nominated for Best Picture,
Yep.
Best Director,
Best Actress for Blanchett,
Blanchett.
Original Screenplay, Cinematography, and Film Editing. In fact, it was seen as kind of a surprise for cinematography over films like The Batman and Top Gun Maverick, which were both seen as very likely nominations that did not receive it. So
Yeah, and I'll get a little bit heavy into that review. Todd Field is one of those that doesn't directs movies maybe once every 10 years.
So if he had a kid when he made Little Children, that child could now drive a car.
Yeah. But Todd Field is also kind of like Taylor Sheridan, was an actor, and then when that kind of opportunities dried up, he began to navigate to other things like directing.
Yeah.
If you look up in research, he actually went to American Film Institute for directing, but he initially was doing acting first, and then probably the pursuits of roles weren't really coming, and then he started doing directing. If you haven't checked out In the Bedroom, it's one of the best films. It's how you want to start your directing career, you do a movie like that. That was a powerful movie.
No, because then everything you follow it up with gets compared anyway.
Right, I know.
But I think of Todd Field, I really think of Eyes Wide Shut. It's the only film role where I remember him playing a character of real note.
Piano
yeah.
yeah.
And it's also interesting that he shares a credit in that film with Cate Blanchett, who has a vocal performance as one of the people, I believe, at the orgy. But she's not in the movie. She's just, her voice is used on the phone, I think.
Yes.
So it's kind of interesting. They shared no screen time. They didn't meet each other during the making of that film. But, this Tar has been compared as a, Kubrickian style film. So it's kind of interesting that they both got to work on one.
Right, yes. So cinematographer is by Florian Hofmeister. It's edited by Monica Willie. I'm telling you that. Both got nominations. We already talked about film score. It stars, not only, I'm going to say her name wrong, but it's Naomi Merlant.
Yeah.
She's from Portrait of Lady on Fire.
Yeah. We talked about her recently.
I watched this movie. She looks very familiar. I don't want to look up yet, but I know, and it's that face, and it's like she plays the assistant to Lydia, right?
Yep. The ex-paramour, if you will.
Personal assistant that gets very personal. Then Nina Haas. Now, Nina Haas starred in the movie Phoenix. I don't know if you can find Phoenix. And when Phoenix came out, I would card it as that was a top 10 for me. Remember, she was...
what year was that?
I can't remember. It's got to be like 10 years ago.
Okay.
At most. But then that story is her character gets ratted on that she's Jewish. She goes to a concentration camp and gets disfigured, so her plastic surgery she doesn't is unrecognizable to even her husband.
Oh, okay.
And she tries to find out in the pursuit who ratted on her and sent her to the concentration camp. And that movie's called Phoenix. Nina Haas plays the title role. It's a very powerful movie. It's very well done, and it's a kind of under the radar kind of a film. And then you have Julian Wyeth Glover. You
Yeah.
recognize him from Game of Thrones. And then, of course, Mark Straw. Is he wearing a wig?
He's got to be. I've never seen him with that much hair.
I know, right.
Even though it's not even there, it's kind of like wispy. It's like if Homer Simpson ratted out his like 2 strands.
Right.
But yeah, Mark Strong, I would say almost unrecognizable because of the hair. But I want to go back to Julian Glover and point out the fact that that man has been so integral to so many franchises, appearing as General Veers in Star Wars Episode 5. He was also our villainous character in The Last Crusade.
Correct.
He voices Aragog the Spider in Harry Potter and the Chamber of Secrets. And, of course, Game of Thrones, where he plays a really creepy little maester. So,
Right. So the whole entire presentation that even though Todd Field hasn't directed very many movies, he can collaborate very well with actors. And then we talked about this, I think, when Maggie Gyllenhaal did Lost Daughter and Sarah Polley did Women Talking. Usually people with backgrounds as actors then go to directing, usually can far more easily to recruit good acting
yes.
as ensemble cast.
Yeah, and for film fans, it tends to be something almost like it feels like almost like a warning ahead of time, like this type of a movie is going to be a character performance piece. It tends to be the case. It's not always the case, but usually when you have an actor turned director, you look for the performances in the film more than anything flashy outside, if I may say.
Right.
Yeah, you also have a very interesting, so Sophie Cower appears in the film. She does not have any acting credits. She plays Olga, kind of the new young thing.
The new upcoming cello player.
Yeah. And so she actually has never acted before, but she got a role in the film. And so she learned to act by watching YouTube videos hosted by Michael Caine. So if you're looking to get in the scene, everybody, that's your opportunity.
Even vicariously, Michael Caine contributes to yet another movie.
It's important, you know. I mean, we're talking the star of Jaws 4 here. So, I mean, that's a big deal to get your head in the door there.
Right. So, and I understand, usually with the background in the acting, before directing, you're able to correspond with directors on set and understand how to communicate with them, what they need, what you want from them, how to frame things. And I think it's far more better than just being a regular director, because this is obviously a performance-nominated piece, even though it did get nominated for a lot of technical things. And so what I really enjoy about this movie, and I think you watch it, it seems like it's a documentary of somebody that you think is a real person. I think everybody watches this movie and goes, is this a real person?
Yeah, I thankfully I looked it up before I saw the film because everyone was talking about the performance. It's that thing where it's like there's no way to distinguish this film from this performance. That's why I'm surprised it got the Best Picture nomination, because it's so indebted to that performance that you would almost feel like
you look it up right away. Is this person real?
Yeah. And that's actually one of the top things. If you look up is Tar, it says real, right? Like it auto corrects in there. Speaking of Blanchett's performance too, it's interesting that she got the role in a very odd way. Basically, Todd Field had been trying to court her for this role. He said, she's the only person I want in this role, or else I just won't make the movie. Yeah. And I believe he passed the script on to her her agent, who said, like, she's got a lot on her plate right now, she's not busy to do it. Basically, while they're on the phone discussing why she can't do the role and why they won't send the script to her, Todd Field gets into a car accident. And apparently the agent felt so bad that she was like, oh, I'll send it over to her. Like, she felt bad for being on the phone during this car accident, and you have the film you have. So maybe it's that.
However,
that's
you can
fair.
get your movie made, right?
That's fair, because Tar is in a lot of ways a slow-moving car accident.
Usually, accidents, getting car rides. We talked about how Drive got made.
Yeah,
and that was a funky way of getting Drive made. Yeah.
So buckle up, folks, and maybe make your deals later.
So I'll get to when we get to our review. I'll talk about a little bit about the character and the process and everything. I just want to a little bit about how it got made. So it is film composing. And it's interesting that you don't get a lot of music in this movie. And you think, well, we're just gonna get banter, like maybe like Alfred Hitchcock movie where we just get musical scores all over the place. It's actually a very quiet film. So Tar, is it a play on words because it's very like what her character is? You think, and what it's like? It's supposed to be like an accent or something like that.
Well, and going through the film and finding out that it's not actually her.
Right.
Given name as a character, kind of. I think it's a film that it's about facades. It's about being covered and covering yourself, and
that's what I'm trying.
What is it? I guess what's every actor thing? Fake it till you make it. I guess.
Once again, he explains it better than I. So it appeared at a bunch of film festivals. It got distribution, and I think it got slow tracking in theaters. It didn't do a lot of promotion. It was like a lot of word of mouth. It came out in theaters here in America about September.
Well, yeah. So it premiered at Venice. Blanchett actually won the Volpe Cup, which is a big distinction. That's the best actress.
Look at the
giant cup. It's really kind of cool.
Yeah.
I think I remember first seeing it in a theater around September, late September, early October. The thing is, I remember thinking it'll come to my theater. Like it was at the 2 theaters away, and I was like, it'll come to mine.
It'll come to mine.
And it didn't. It disappeared. So thankfully, thank you to Focus Features for sending us screeners so we could actually check the film out. But
yeah, it had the legging. I think it had the same kind of traction theater, like she said, where people understand there's not a lot of packing the theater to see this, but people who love cinema, who like to critique movies, went to see this movie in the theater.
Like She Said, Women Talking was another one. A Man Called Otto this year was another one too, where I felt like the movie had been out for 3 months and it finally showed up in my theater, and I was like, oh, I can go see it. That slow tracking is. I don't know if it's as successful this year as it is previously, because we talk about a lot of these films really underwhelming financially. Tar cost $35 million to make, so you got to make some cachet. This is an independent movie here.
Right. So up next is our review of Tar. Okay, understand. This is kind of surprising for me for cinematography, for its very basic cinematography. I'm not trying to discredit or insult it, but it's a lot of not moving the camera.
Yeah,
it's very much set the camera down and just have the action go. It's something that every time I watch this movie, I was like, this is kind of what I want to do if I make my move full feature. Not a lot of camera movement, but when you need to. I think the first time the camera moves is when she tells her student to come to the piano and sit
the
with
Juilliard thing?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's which is a single take, which is a very impressive single take scene. A lot of moving parts there, especially when you see all the steps going up and down. That would drop that camera twice.
But that's the first time the camera moves. And that's 25 minutes in. Most of the time, it's set on legs.
Yeah.
And let the actors do. And not to mention, the first couple minutes is an interview, then she has a dinner scene, and then about 30 minutes in is her teaching class.
Yeah.
So it's like,
it takes a
long time.
It takes a patient kind of cinematography. Yeah. And that's why I think it's not one that I feel like. It surprised me it got into the category not because it's bad cinematography, but because it's purposely less flashy until it needs to be.
Once again, he says it better than I do.
I think that single take Juilliard scene might be one of the best short films I've seen all year. Just if you chopped it out of the rest of the movie, I think it would earn a spot in it.
Especially when he leaves and she goes, and you're a robot.
Yeah. You get that whole thing, but then I also like the placement of the camera in her apartment and how the multiple rooms separated by doors that are open allows her to kind of move across the camera. I'm thinking like the Apartment for Sale song, where she kind of enters the frame. She's the one moving the camera, even though the camera's not moving. And there's that other scene where she's literally naked, washing herself, like washing the body smell off of herself during that one scene. And it's she's in so much of the distance that the cinematography is doing heavy surrounding lifting, even though it's not actually moving. It's just well planned, I guess.
Isn't even edited well enough, and I wasn't impressed with the editing until the second viewing, where you have conversation and he captures the reactions rather than the people speaking. Not only when she, the personal assistant looking at the phone, when Lydia Tarr says something and she's like, and you get that scene and you put it all in juxtaposition. So all this seems like just a regular conversation, but you shoot it, frame it, and edited it well that it seems enticing, like what is really under the surface here. Yeah. See,
and what I feel is missing with the editing for me, because I was very surprised I got it for editing, because I just didn't find it to be all that captivating of an edited film.
Same with cinematography,
is I think there's this weird disconnection between the screenplay and the editing, in that I don't think that the editing serves the story. I don't think that the editing doesn't carry our story forward. When I go back to the film, and I've watched it now 3 times, I think Cate Blanchett she plays a great character. I always say characters have to be likable or interesting. Definitely not likable, but very interesting. The problem is I don't think that she has an interesting enough character arc. And I kind of floundered on this movie. It just kind of felt very underwhelming the whole time through, because it's a character study, but I just don't find that the character's story is serving how interesting the character is. And I think that's part of my issue with the editing, is that I don't think the editing moves the narrative forward. it almost feels like we're playing catch up as viewers. That was my biggest issue with it.
And from his point of view, I like the editing because it's about her, and I do like the movie. I put it as the second best film of the year for me. And what I do like about it is you understand the entire undercurrent. What is out in front of her is never reality. You always project this undercurrent, even though, you know, you want to cut this, you want to cut this boot, you know, all this underplay, which every time was out in front is not a crucial element. And I think that's tough to do. I don't think it's written in there, but how do you present that? It's the high valleys of being famous.
Yeah.
And when you're famous, well, you can do anything and people are going to say yes to you. You could be a major pain in the ass and people are going to give you the greatest food. But when you start the slow cracking of going down and you crash, then then you try to hold up, you're going to see the follies. And nobody sees the follies when you're this worldwide famous.
Yeah, and Lydia's character is meant to be someone who's able to basically hide behind this facade. Like, nothing about her is all that real. And in fact, it's almost not even about her gift as an artist. It's about her ability to project that to me and kind of gain power from holding it over other people. And I think that's where I felt that the film was just kind of underwhelming to me, was because I'm one of your target audiences for character downfalls. I love The Wolf of Wall Street. When we talked over on our Patreon, you can check out our episode about Scarface that is on there for patrons. Like, I love character rise and character downfall, and I just felt like the character downfall here and her kind of descent into a quote-unquote madness just never had any bite to it for me, which is disappointing because I find the character so interesting. It just never felt the bite of her downfall.
And I think it's what I'm trying to establish. I think it's intentional. I think it's supposed to be all of it under surface, and then when it happens, it's a cascading that you don't see out front. You don't see the major blowout that you see a lot of other people do.
Yeah.
Right.
Well, and Field has a number of really clever tricks in how he kind of consistently uses the five. The Fifth Symphony, there's a 5 that gets repeated a lot. There's that scene where she goes to the massage parlor and they ask if that's number 5, and she can't handle that, like, memory and such. I like the clever moments of that. But I just felt like it's all the stuff that's there. It's almost like subtle. Notice it when you watch it a second time, but it just didn't save that for me. I was like, really captivated with things like when she goes back to her childhood home and seeing all these things in the background. Seeing the interactions that she actually had with Leonard Bernstein. That was like, oh, that's a really neat idea. It just never really clung to the narrative for me, where it was almost like a trivia piece, if anything, more than it was integral to the story, and it should have felt more integral, just to me.
And I loved it because it's about process. Here's the person who's an artist, who regards herself as an artist and trying to craft a story, but or compose something. And she doesn't, am I a fraud? I can't get this done. The whole time of just everything just gets at her because she can't sit down calmly and compose music. People are pressuring her. And then she tries different avenues of ways to get people's attention. Rather than doing linearly, like, let's teach class. No, let's break up how we teach class and I'll do this too. And then she pisses off the student and he's gone forever. Or let's talk about this or this way. So it's always you circumnavigating a process of conversation. But I think the entire time she's considering herself an artist in everything she does, even going out to dinner, even going to talk, with her with her new students and everything, and that is a crumbling because she's talking about she's telling everybody look for your authentic self, and she's missing the point to her own self, and that's her downfall. Yeah,
it's all a front in a lot of ways because as we see, like, she's more than willing near the end of the film to take what she can get, know. And I think that's part of her character arc is just being somebody who is so fake on the outside because it's about how she looks. I feel like it's more important to be the artist to her than to actually interpret the art and to create.
We know many
art.
people like that.
Yeah, it's about the idea of being an artist than it is about being the art. And I think that's what's captivating about the character. But it just, I kind of felt like the same as I felt about The Fabelmans this year. And I like The Fabelmans a little bit more in this film, but both films are ones where I feel like I'm a target audience for it, and I feel like I wanted to like the film more than I ultimately did. And as it stands right now, of the 10 Best Picture nominees, is probably my least favorite, which is so weird because so many people I know
it's one of my favorites.
Have it as not just in their top 10. I know a lot of people have this as number 1 for the year, and I'm like, I can't I can't get it.
I
I can't understand.
And I understand. I understand. I love it because it's hard to frame what they're trying to do with this movie. It's hard to project what's hard to do in the movie. And right, there is no big. The one blowout she has when she confarts Mark Strong.
Oh yeah,
that's it.
Yeah,
and that goes fast.
And the trip on the staircase, if you will, like those are the violent moments in an otherwise unviolent film.
Yeah.
I think what I found so frustrating was how often I liked scenes in the film that I just didn't feel the cohesiveness. Like going back to the Juilliard scene, I think the Juilliard scene is great. I love the jogging scene where she's hearing these screams, which, fun fact, those screams are actually Heather Donahue's screams taken from the film The Blair Witch Project.
And it does, those scenes kind of takes you out, like, what is going on. And that's what she's dealing below the surface, this anxiety of, am I going crazy?
Yeah.
The neighbor's agitation,
Yeah. The dream sequences, the nightmares, if you will. I thought that stuff was great. It's just I never felt this connection. I'm going to go back to the other thing. I never felt that the film was put together.
Well, I will one further. I have a film critic person. I won't name names because he didn't want to, but he regards this as a comedy. He goes, "There's certain things she does that I laughed out loud at. I don't know if this was supposed to be a comedy." They give a hint that she's one of 5 EGOTs, like it's Mel Brooks, but the downfall does seem a little bit fumblish. I don't know if it's a caricature, but he's like, "Are you supposed to laugh at this movie?" I go, "Oh, I didn't." He goes, "I did."
There was some stuff I laughed at in the film because of the absurdist nature of her downfall.
Yeah.
I think it was more like you remember like, I don't know, when I watched another film, Joker. There was moments I laughed in that film, and then I felt bad for laughing because it's like an uncomfortable comedy, and I think that's kind of similar in a way to how Tar's uncomfortable comedy is. Yeah. I laughed at things, and then I felt weird about laughing at them because, and maybe it's because she's an unlikable character that it's okay to laugh at, as she's kind of.
I don't think she. The whole point of her character is everything she does is every interaction with anybody is uncomfortable and not smooth at all.
Yeah.
Yeah, and even her girlfriend, it's just,
Well, so many choices she makes in the film are choices that I can even understand. It's just her process around them. Alan Cordner, who plays Sebastian, her assistant conductor, I believe is the term.
Yep.
The one that she's going to let go. She basically makes it kind of a ploy or play, if you will, that she talks to people, I'm letting Sebastian go. And it's kind of this thing of like, she has no care in the world for how he's going to respond. The guys are like, well, maybe we should vote on it. She goes, no, I get to vote.
It's almost like an artist doing a wide brush stroke on a canvas. I'm just getting rid of him.
Yeah.
And I don't care.
She's doing things to people around her that they would not like her happening to her. And there's another scene where I think it's a cellist that she's going to give that solo to. And then she holds the open auditions when it's like, it's protocol that you let, if you're going to have someone in the crew do it, it's protocol to let the lead cellist do it. Yeah. And yet, and if that happened to her, she'd be pissed. She'd be so mad that it was taken upon her, but she's the power player.
By my perspective, she's like, this is the rules. Well, let's break the rules and do it this way.
In the name of art.
And then in the name of art, and then it's going to piss everybody off. But I'm challenging you how to think of ways of things. And it's like, it's so ridiculous.
Yeah.
Right.
It's not inherently a wrong decision on her part to want the best person for the job, but it's kind of that idea that I know that she wouldn't react the same way to that character. So she's kind of a walking, I don't want to say oxymoron, but conundrum, basically, where she's treating everyone exactly the opposite of how she thinks she should be treated.
Right.
And because she has the name and the stake, her phoniness is allowed to rise to the top. Again, it always comes down to, like, I've spoken to so many people that just love the film and I love the character, but I just couldn't connect to the material.
All right. So, what's your reaction to Tar? Because, like I said, this is not on
pretty
his
tarn between us.
Tarn. We had to do it, right? And it's my second best film. I loved it. I know I'm kind of surprised with the cinematography. It's not really basic. There's a lot of challenges, but how you just let the action happen in front, and not a lot of camera movement, that this gets nominated.
Something just occurred to me. Maybe the reason it didn't get up for best music is because the certain amount of the music in the film has to be original, and I'm wondering if the different scores that are playing and symphonies in the background might have percentage-wise disqualified it. Just a thought. I have no idea if that's true. But there's some weird rules about the new music amount in a film. So
make a comment down below what you think of Tar.
Yeah, let us know down below your thoughts on the film. Maybe your favorite Todd Field film, or even give us maybe your ranking of the Best Picture nominees that you've seen thus far. We're about a month away from Oscar night, so it's time to be checking off those Best Picture nominations as you can.
Exactly.
So make sure you guys, while you're down there, please like and subscribe. They don't cost you anything, but man, a like and a subscribe helps our channel out immensely, and you never miss new episodes of the show as they drop. Like Nick pointed out, we got that Patreon link down in the description. Patreon.com/KyleNickOnFilm. Join us over there for our Road to De Palma we have this month, and we have a brand new Picks with Kyle and Nick available now.
Yeah, a lot of good content on there.
Good stuff, yeah. And it's not that expensive. Drop that cup of coffee. I see it in your hands. Anyway, you can find all my film reviews over at goatfilmreviews.com.
You can find my show, the St. Paul Filmcast, where I talk with Brian Eggert about our top 10 films of the last year on the show. You can find that anywhere you find podcasts.